Good morning. So this morning we're going to be going through our Employee Right to Know refresher training as well as our safety policy training. The Right to Know training is required for all employees, and we're going to be going through hazardous materials, hazardous substances, and how to read MSDSs and so forth. Here's the objectives of our training. For those of you that have done training with me before, you know that I don't read slides to you, so I'm just going to be going through these and expecting that you'll be reading the slides on your own. We're going to be understanding the hazards. We're going to be talking about how to understand MSDSs. If you don't know what an MSDS is, it stands for a Material Safety Data Sheet. It gives you all the information that you need to know about substances, potential harms, how to deal with that substance if you have a leak, and so forth. We're also going to be talking about best practices and the global harmonization that is coming forward next year. Lots of different hazardous agents that we all deal with on a daily basis. Could be chemical, could be a slip, trip, and fall, could be falling, poisons, flammables, so forth, infectious agents. MSDS sheets. What these sheets are, all of us have the potential to come into contact with these substances. For example, we all have copiers. Do you know what substances is in your copier toner? Could you be allergic to it? Could you react to it? Could it have harmful effects? You'll find your material safety data sheet. Here's an example at the beginning of a copier toner. It's going to list the ingredients. It's going to talk about the manufacturer, irritations, eyes, skin, so forth. It's going to talk about first aid measures, all of these different things. Every department and every building should have material safety data sheets. You need to make sure that you know exactly where yours are located. All of our responsibilities as well. We're talking about our supervisor's responsibilities. As a supervisor, you need to make sure that you have your sheets up to date, that your employees are being trained, that they know where to find the material safety data sheets, how to protect themselves, how to use the materials properly. If you don't know how to do that as an employee, you would want to go and make sure that you ask for that training. Don't handle materials that you don't know what's in them and how to handle them properly. Know where those material safety data sheets are located. If you need to have PPE, personal protective equipment, make sure you're utilizing them. It's the only way to keep yourself safe. Labels, labels, labels. This is my big thing. Here we have something. What's in it? Any guesses? Now, by seeing what's around it, you might think vegetable oil. For all we know, that could be kerosene. We have no idea what's in it. You need to make sure if you're putting something in a secondary container, and a secondary container is considered anything that is not the original manufacturer's container, that it's labeled. What is it? Is there an MSDS for it? Does it have potential hazards? You need to make sure things are clearly labeled. We have record retention. For most of you, this is not something you need to deal with. Our safety personnel generally deals with these. But for your information, if you need to go back and look, you're having some effects, you think it may be from exposure to a potentially hazardous material, we do keep these on file for several years. Global harmonization. Basically what this is about is that different countries throughout the world have their MSDS sheets in different formats. They have different symbols. They lay them out differently. The purpose of global harmonization was to get everyone on the same page. We no longer just get our products from within the US, so we all have the same system. We're getting products from several countries overseas that may label things differently. Moving forward, we're going to have standardized symbols. So as we see forward, you can see for everything, whether it comes from the United States, Japan, Mexico, India, Timbuktu, all of these labels will be the same for all of our products so that we can understand what we're looking at and know exactly what they are all about. Additionally, our MSDS, which are going to be now called MDS, Material Data Sheets, are going to be listed the same. Everything's going to be laid out in the same way so that we know exactly where to look, no matter where it's from, what it is, and how to maintain it safely. And just showing you a little bit more about how these products are laid out so that if you need to see these sheets. Here's your symbols. These are going to be the universal global symbols for all products starting next year. All right, next we're going to be talking about different agents that we can be exposed to. Our physical agents, noise, heat, radiation. Whether or not we work in an office, we're potentially exposed to different things at different levels. So we need to be aware of what's coming out there and being exposed to. Noise is a big one. This may seem 85 decibels is really not that loud. Talking about for several hours. As you're looking through on these agents, anything you can think of that might be 85 decibels isn't that much. A kitchen blender, a hair dryer, heavy traffic is already 85 decibels. And that doesn't seem that bad to us. You start hitting 115 decibels, now we're talking about a chainsaw, going to a stadium football game. And look, 15 minutes, you could already potentially have hearing damage. All right, so our objective is to either engineer out the noise, try and make it softer to begin with. If not, we're going to use PPE or hearing protection in this case. Another physical agent, of course, is heat. We do live in Minnesota. It really does get hot here, believe it or not. Make sure you know the symptoms of heat exhaustion. You know, excessive sweating, tiredness, headaches, heat stroke, sunstroke. This is one we're all very familiar with in Minnesota, of course, being cold. And with some of our buildings, this can actually be a real thing. You know, some of our buildings, one level could be hot, one level can be cold. You can actually get some negative effects from the cold from sitting in a too cold office all day. So make sure you're aware of what those symptoms are. If you're feeling any of those, make sure that you're communicating them. We try and engineer them out. If not, we mitigate the problem. This one is one that a lot of us aren't exposed to, as most of us work in an office. However, you just need to be aware of those things. You know, welding is something most of us don't do. Sunlight causes radiation. We all know this. That's why we wear sunscreen. That's why we wear sunglasses. But if you're out and about, and many of us are, you know, not only our officers, not only our highway people, our home health aides, our public health nurses, our social workers, a lot of you are out and about being exposed to some of these things, so make sure that you're aware of how to keep yourself safe. And then infectious agents. You might think of this as something that only those in public health really deal with, or in the jail, or in police, but all of us deal with the public coming in every single day, and we have no idea what they're bringing in with them. They could be bringing in a virus. They could be bringing in bacteria, parasites, lice, who knows? So these are things that we really need to understand and be prepared for. You know, viruses can come in a lot of forms. Someone could come in and come up to your desk and start coughing and spread a virus. Someone could, you know, have a little cut on their finger, touch documents that then you're touching. You know, these are all real things, and that's one of the reasons why, as far as with first reports of injury, if you feel you have any exposure, you need to report, okay? We do offer influenza vaccines every year free of charge for all employees. I highly recommend you take advantage of that because we are in the public sector. We deal with the public every day. It's a real threat for us. Bloodborne pathogens. Here's the biggest thing with bloodborne pathogens. We have several people that are trained on how to deal with bloodborne pathogens if there is a spill, if someone throws up, if someone is bleeding, if some of those things happen. However, all of us can do certain things. We can quarantine the area, we can communicate with somebody else, contact someone who knows how to deal with it. But those are what we really all need to do. Close off the area, cordon it off so that other people aren't exposed. Make sure you're contacting someone who is trained, your supervisor if you don't know for sure who that is. On the wall in all of your buildings is information on your safety personnel, who your first responders are, who your safety wardens are. Those are people you would want to contact and make sure that this is cleaned up in a way that's safe. And then just universal precautions. I mean, basic common sense. Let's not be doing things that are going to expose us. Let's communicate. Let's protect ourselves the best that we can. Again, we work in the workplace. Nicks, cuts, abrasions, mucus, coughing. Someone blows their nose and wants to shake your hand. You know, we don't need to become germaphobes, but we need to be aware that we're being exposed to these agents and use precautions. There's hand sanitizer available to all county employees. Obviously the first and basic thing that we can do, and the #1 way to stop the spread of these things, wash your hands. It's pretty basic, but it is the absolute best way to prevent the spread of transmission. PPE, if you're dealing with something, make sure that you're wearing appropriate clothing. If you are going to be out and about, if you are going to be walking through tall grasses and those things, make sure your legs are covered. Make sure you're wearing appropriate footwear. Make sure that if you are using any kinds of things, that you're making sure that they fit, that they're working properly. Most of you aren't going to deal with these things, but once again, wash, 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 wash. Eyes. We have eye wash stations and portable eye wash stations throughout the county. Look at your maps. Every building has a map of where first aid kits are located, where eye wash stations are located. And make sure you know where they are, and if something gets in your eyes, get a buddy. We've had that happen even here in the county. Because when you have something in your eyes, you're going to want to close your eyes. So having my eyes closed and trying to find something is just going to cause another injury. So if something happens and I get something in my eyes, I'm going to be like, Audrey, Cindy, somebody, I need to get to an eye wash station. Can you help me get there? That way you're being safe. Someone's making sure you get to the right place. So I need to know where that is, because what if you're the one that needs me to get you there? That's not the time to say, wait, let me check the map and find out where the eye wash station is. I need to get you there quickly. So know where those things are, because you might be the one with something in your eye. You might be the one who's asked to take somebody else. Report, report, report. We talk about that all the time. Don't just overlook something. Don't make sure you're letting someone know so we can have that happen. And that accident injury report. So important. We need to know these things are occurring. We need to see if patterns are emerging. We need to know if it's something we need to fix right away. But we can't know that if you're not communicating it to us. And exposure control plans. Have the conversations. Make sure that this is something you talk about. Safety isn't something we do just when someone from the safety committee is there. It's not something we do only if something's torn apart and unusual. Safety is something we need to do every day when we're at work to avoid those things from happening in the first place. And again, here it is again. Good hand washing. Key, key, key. PPE. Understand how to read your MSDSs. Report, report, report. I can't say that enough times. Looking at bacteria, we're going to touch on these briefly. Your office surfaces. Does anyone know what the most filthy, germy place in the entire office is? And it's not the bathroom. It's your computer keyboard. Studies have shown that your computer keyboard has more germs on it than the toilet. Because the toilet gets cleaned every single day. We have an incredible maintenance staff here. They take excellent care of our surfaces. But you're touching papers, you're touching food, you're touching this, you're touching that. And every time you do, you're then going back to your keyboard and you're touching your keyboard. And do we wash our keyboards every day? No. So it's building and building and building. That is the most filthy place in your keyboard. No wonder when IS comes in, they like to wipe things down. They're always using hand sanitizer because they're touching the most filthy place in the office, in all of your germs and your germs and your germs all over. So just a good rule of thought with cleaning surfaces, I like to just take a wipe on Fridays before I leave, wipe down my keyboard, wipe off my phone, and then I've got it cleaned at least to start the next week. But just know that that's something that you're dealing with every single day. Lice, fleas, ticks. Now granted, we probably don't have those, but how do we know someone from the public coming in isn't coming in with a head full of lice? We have no idea. All we know is they scratch their head. Next thing we know, it could be on us. We don't know that somebody wasn't out walking in the woods or walking in their yard and has ticks on them. So just be aware of what they look like, what it feels like, how to prevent them. So that's basically our right to know piece. The biggest section we're going to be working on is going to be our annual safety policy review. And you've all seen this before. Excuse me. We've had very excellent years because we take safety seriously. Here's our goal. Zip, zero, nada. Are we ever going to get to that goal? I don't know. But we're going to work towards that goal every single day. Here's why our safety program is important. Because unless we take responsibility, have the right attitude, work together, and the continual effort, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't work. Responsibilities first. Who's responsible for being safe here? Everybody. All of you. Me. I'm responsible for safety. Not just for me, but to make sure I'm not creating an unsafe environment for somebody else. Attitude's another one. Anybody here ever ask a teenager to mow the lawn who didn't really want to mow the lawn? How great did that lawn turn out? Not so much. Same thing with safety. If you're coming into it saying, well, I'm going to hold the handrails when Christina's looking so she doesn't get on my case, that's not the right attitude. We need to come in with an attitude of safety and that being part of our culture, that just being what we do as a part of our daily tasks, both here and at work. The safety committee's goal is for every single employee to go home every day in the same or better condition than they came to work. Working together. When you see somebody carrying that box that's too big, offer to help. When you see a drawer left open that someone's going to be walking into, do something about it. Work together, communicate. That's one of the biggest ways we can stay safe, is by safety being something you don't just talk about once a year when Christina makes you come to this training, but something we talk about on a daily basis. Hey, I noticed this. Can I help fix it? Or hey, I noticed this. I need to report it to safety or to building maintenance. Instead of just letting it go, be part of the solution. And the continual effort's part of that. Again, it's not something you do once a year when you have to go to training. It's something you do every day and everything you do. These are some examples that I got from MCIT. These are stairs. Now, if you look really closely, you can see that this goes this way and this goes this way. So obviously this is floor and this is stairs. But is this the step down part? Is this the step down part? And if you're walking quickly, are you really going to notice that's where it ends? This is not, and actually, this is the end of the stair, not this. Not a safe situation. Something that you can maybe bring up to say, guys, this is a falling hazard. This one is very obvious. However, how many of us have been known to walk texting, talking on the phone, checking our email? This is actually easy to fall on because we're not paying attention to where we're walking, we're paying attention to where we want to get or what we can get done while we're walking. So even something as obvious as this can be a hazard that you can see many, many people slip, trip, and fall on. All right, here's our safety program. There's the goal, to maintain a healthy and safe work environment for all employees and visitors. Again, going back to that zero, that's the goal. And this is how you get there, all right? I've got 3 different pictures here for various reasons. This one's pretty obvious. We don't want to trip over things. Refrigerator may not seem like a normal one for the office. Who puts their lunches places? Do we want bacteria growing in there? Do we want to leave food in there to mold that then is going to spread to other things? No, of course not. And then there's this one. Not nearly as obvious. Ergonomics. Ergonomics are an important part of safety. If you're sitting in bad equipment, if you've got your arms like this and you're typing, if you're going like this or like this to stare at your computer screen, those things are going to cause long-term accidents and injuries. All right. Safety culture. You'll see it over and over and over again. That's what we want to build, where safety is just part of our culture, not something we have to do, but just the way we do business. And of course, we always want to maintain that low accident and injury, not because it makes us look good, but because, again, we want everyone to go home in the same or better condition than they came to work. You know, this county has done an excellent job working on that. The safety committee, in combination with the wellness committee, has made incredible strides in that area. We won the Governor's Safety Award 2 years in a row. We're hoping to continue that trend, and we get there by working together to get it done. Education, things like this. But this isn't the only kind of education that you get. Education can be ongoing, every day. It can be things like looking at that MSDS sheet or getting training on how to use something before you use a new piece of equipment. It can be checking to make sure when you move some things around that your cords are tied up and put where they need to be. It can be making sure you're not leaving piles of things on your floor that you could potentially trip over. Talking about safety. We have a lot of resources available to you on the intranet. All of the forms you would need, the emergency action plans for your buildings. If you haven't seen those recently, take some time to do that. We've been updating those with some changes. It's a really good idea to go through those once a year. We'll be trying to notify you when there's changes, but it's a good refresher. It takes about 15 minutes. And again, that's more training. Your emergency contracts. We've got our policy manual that we're also working on updating at this point in time. All right, lifting. What is this guy doing right and what is he doing wrong?
Lifting with his back.
He's lifting with his back. His legs are perfectly straight.
Should be lifting with his legs.
With his legs. And you can't really see his other foot, but when you look at his feet are really close together, which doesn't give him a good center of balance. What's he doing right or wrong here?
His knees are bent.
His knees are bent. His back is straight. The other one a lot of people don't notice, he's keeping the object very close to him. Because even if you're down the right way, if it's way out here, you may have your legs bent, but you still have to use your back to get it up because you're not able to use your legs. So when you're lifting, you want to keep it close to you. All right, controlling the hazards. First and foremost, we have to know they exist. It comes back to that communicate, communicate, communicate. All right, you communicate those to a safety person. You communicate those to your supervisor. You can communicate those to building maintenance. You can communicate those things to me as the safety coordinator. All right, once those are communicated, every single one is looked into. Absolutely every one. We rank those hazards by risks. We rank, is it likely to happen? How serious is injury if it were to happen? So then we look into corrective measures and follow-up. So I need you to be telling me, we're going to communicate with you. Okay, so you've identified this hazard. Here's what we're going to be doing about it. As we're doing that, I need you to tell me, is it working? Are things getting better? Is there more corrective action we need to take? Are these things getting done? Back to responsibility. Everyone is responsible for safety, all right? This goes over a little bit about reporting procedures. Biggest thing is to actually report it. I don't care if you report it to me, your supervisor, or a safety person. We can't do anything about it if we don't know about it. Make sure you're reporting anytime you get hurt. There was an incident here years ago, my understanding, before my time. Someone got a paper cut. Simple, harmless. I'm not going to worry about it. A Band-Aid, I'm good to go. As it happens, this person got a blood infection, they got a staph infection, and it became much more serious than we originally thought. So report things. I mean, if you slip and you clonk yourself a little bit, I'm not hurt, I need a Band-Aid. Report it. It's fine. We're not going to have any problems with that. There is no repercussions for reporting. We're not trying to find fault when someone reports something happened. We're trying to look back, find out how did it happen, what can we do to stop it from happening in the future. It's not a blame game, all right? Here's what happens. Okay, we're going to be looking at long-term things, especially short-term as well. But those long-term things, we continue to watch. But again, I can't do anything about it unless I know about it. All right? We also do self-inspections. You're doing your department inspections every year. You may or may not be involved in that, but every year your department heads are given self-inspections to review the department. So make sure you're letting them know about the things going on, because they may not see what's happening in your cubicle, but there may be something there that they need to put on that we can address. So again, communication is the #1 thing. Here's the kinds of things that we do when we do our self-inspections. Do you know the #1 thing I find when I'm doing inspections of other departments? Housekeeping. #1 reason we have injuries in the office areas is housekeeping issues. I let my cords get all unraveled and I tripped on them. I've got piles of stuff, so I just squinch in and I clunked myself. I slipped on this because maybe I left something on the floor. I've got piles on my desk that then fell on me. Housekeeping is the #1 thing I see in office spaces. It's also the #1 thing that deters productivity, by the way. So the more you can keep your desk organized, and I know we all have piles of things, I know we all have tons and too much to do in too short a time, you're going to be more productive and you're going to be more safe if you can keep things organized and cleaned up. Here's a perfect example. This looks fine, right? There's tons of space to get up and down the stairs, but it's way too easy to bump something and now everything's going down, and how do I know that this isn't going to react with this if they get bumped and spill down? How do I know what this even is? I don't even see a label on it. So we need to label it. We need to keep it put away. Because if I bump this and these two ingredients mix together, how do I know they don't become a noxious gas or start a fire or become an acid? This is one of the big ones we see, especially in the wintertime. This little tiny bump seems like no big deal. But studies have shown even a 1/4 of an inch difference in your walking surface can cause someone to trip. Straighten it out. And please don't straighten it out the way most of us Minnesotans like to straighten things out, which is shuffle, 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 shuffle. Because as you do that and it bumps up, you're likely to trip yourself as you're trying to avoid a tripping hazard. Stop, bend down, use your hands, straighten it out. All right, we've talked a little bit about PPE. And we all now know what PPE stands for. It's personal protective equipment. That could be anything. That could be latex gloves. It could be hearing protection. It could be that safety vest that they're wearing. It could be eye goggles. It could be any manner of things. If you have a sensitivity, you can wear gloves when you change the toner. All right? It could be wearing shoes when you're walking around the building. If you are using PPE, make sure that before you use it, it's functional. Make sure that if you're wearing glasses, that they're not completely covered with schmeckus so that it's hard to see. Now you've created a new hazard. Make sure if you're wearing hearing protection, that it's in good working order before you use it. If you're using gloves, make sure they're not cracked, because then they're not helping you at all. If you see a problem, again, communicate, report. Let them know it needs to be fixed, it needs to be replaced. It's not going to help you if you don't use it and it's not in working order. And the first aid kit eye wash stations. Here's the maps we were talking about. Fire extinguishers, eye wash stations, first aid. Our exits are noted on here. Power shutoffs. One of the things that's added to these now, that actually the new one's coming up, you'll see AED symbols. All of our buildings now have AEDs. Know where they are. You could be the person that saves someone's life with one of these AEDs you received through our grant. But know where this stuff is. The time to look at the map is not when you need the map. Job safety analysis. I'm going to go through this fairly briefly. A job safety analysis is something that I would generally be involved in with you, with your supervisor, with your department head. If you have concerns about a process within your job, about how to do it, that you may feel it's unsafe, we would do a job safety analysis. We would get together, we would talk about all of the individual steps involved in the process that you need to do, find those safety issues, look at how we're doing them, see if we can change the process so that you don't have those hazards. If we can't change the process, can we change what you're using? Can we change something to either eliminate the hazard or to mitigate the hazard? This is a process where we get very much into the weeds. We look at all those little individual steps. Maybe where we're keeping what you need is too high and it's heavy. So maybe one of the things we need to change is to put it on a more even shelf for pulling a piece of equipment out. Whatever it may be. These you are welcome to state to your supervisor, myself, at any time. And then I would get involved and we would go through and we would do that, and I'm happy to do it. All right. This is one that those of us that are not normally in a county vehicle, a lot of us still drive county vehicles. I like this a lot. It makes me think of my husband because I try and get him to fix things when it's at a ping, and a lot of times we at least get down to the clunk, ping, clunk before it gets fixed. You know, we have a county vehicle that for a long time, the check engine light was on. It was checked and rechecked and triple checked, and it was fine, but the check engine light was on. But what was the sign they had in there? We know it's on, report it anyway. Let's make sure we're checking these things. Don't be, oh, it's fine, I know it was that way last time and I know they checked it. Could be something different. Don't take things for granted. One of the other things with this is XL Energy has this great program. It's called a 360 program, where every time before one of their employees gets into a vehicle, they're asked to walk all the way around the vehicle first. And the main reason for that is, especially when you're parked out in areas of the public, you're out in a neighborhood, whatever, now it's summertime, these kids are out and about, a child could get behind that car in the blink of an eye, and you wouldn't even see them. So take a moment and walk around your vehicle. Make sure you know what's around you before you move the car. Here's, for some of you may remember our old friend Mark Casey from MCIT. Mark is lifting a box. What do you think about that lifting process?
Right.
Not so much. His feet are close together, one foot's not even all the way on the floor, his knees aren't bent, his back is hunched, it's far away from him. Here's my other question with this. Let's go to the next one. How's he doing now?
Not good.
Not much better. He's still going to lift with his back. His feet are still too close together. It's still too far away from him. Here's my other question. How heavy is that box? Do we have any idea? Those of you that were in my safety training the first year I was here, back in 2011, we did an exercise. And we had two boxes. One was a big, huge, huge box. One was a little box. I had a person about my size lift that big box. Nope, I did it the other way around. The little person lifted the little box, and as they lifted it, it was full of chains. It was a very heavy, small box. Box about this size, our former VSO, Nate Pike, who those of you who know him is a good-sized guy, came down and he got his feet apart, kept it close to him, bent his knees, lifted that box, and nearly fell on his tuchus because the only thing in it was a sweater. So if you're needing to lift a box, one of the things I like to do is I just bump it with my foot. By feeling how much resistance you have bumping it with your foot, you know, or at least have a good idea, of how much force you're going to need to lift that box. Big boxes doesn't mean heavy. Little boxes don't mean light. Know what you're lifting before you lift it. So you're not going to grab that little box and not thinking anything of it, and it's full of chains, and you're not giving too much oomph for that box full of sweaters. All right? Something you hear from me all the time. We talked about training. Again, this isn't the only kind of training. You guys have staff meetings where you can talk about safety issues, concerns, best practices. We go to seminars. We have hands-on. This is one. There's things online. One-to-one. That whole, hey, I know we need to do this, but let's chat about how to do it safely before we do it. That's training. Or, you know what, we need to do this thing, and I know Terry's done it before, so let me ask him how he did it. That's training. It may not feel like it. We send out handouts every once in a while. We send out payroll stuffers. Please read them. We put them in there for you to read them. We wouldn't put it in there if it wasn't important. Quick and easy training, that way you have to come to less of these long seminars like this. And then we get into more of the specialized training. Specialized training could be simply, I don't know how to change this, so can you show me how to do it? That's specialized training, all right? It doesn't have to be a big, long process. It may be, depending on what you're doing, but it doesn't have to be. A little bit about our committee. I'm really, really proud of our committee. We do a lot of different things. That committee looks at all accidents and injuries that happen. They look at those reports of unsafe and unhealthful work environments that you're reporting and communicating. All right? We look at best practices. We look at what our goals are for the future. We meet every second Wednesday in room 102. You are welcome to come with your supervisor's permission. If you feel it's something you just want to come and listen, or you have something you want to bring to us or talk about, we welcome you at our meetings. Here's our safety committee members. Again, an incredible group. We have a new commissioner. Harry Root is our new commissioner on there, who's doing an incredible job. He's a great representative to the board for our safety committee. As you can see, our chair this year is Jason Marquardt, our Veteran Services Officer, and our vice chair is Terry Schultz, Secretary Heidi Jones. Anyone on this list is a safety person you can come to, bring thoughts, concerns, ideas, kudos, problems, whatever it may be. These are go-to people that have a direct line in the safety committee. A couple more safety things. This doesn't look like such a big deal. Obviously, I can see that. How about now? I foresee a very sore shin, boxes on the floor, and potentially some real injury. The other thing that's wrong, not only is this open, but he can't clearly see where he's walking. So maybe he needs to hold it lower so he can see his field of vision. Maybe he needs to take one box at a time. Maybe he needs to use a cart. So there's a couple things wrong with this picture. All right, accident investigations briefly. Again, I investigate 100% of reports, no matter how big, no matter how small. All right? So report, 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 report. What we look for is what's called the root cause. I know you schmucked your shin on that open drawer. Why did you schmuck your shin? Maybe you had boxes that were in the way. Okay. Why did we have boxes in the way? Why was that drawer open? Maybe it's at a slant, so that drawer keeps sliding open. Okay, well then we need to fix that. Could be more of a root cause that the filing cabinet is at a slight angle that makes that drawer continually open if it's not completely shut and held for a moment. That's a cause for injury. That's something we can fix. This one looks kind of like a little blurry. It's an open space with tile floors, very much like what we have in many of our buildings. There's no obstructions, nothing. So why is this a hazard? Unfortunately, these beautiful tile floors, especially in the winter, during the rain, can become slip and slides. So it's one of the reasons why we talk a lot about in the rain, in the winter. Make sure you're wearing the proper footwear. Make sure you're either doing something about or reporting if there's water on the floor, if there's a little snow on the floor. Ladies, please don't wear your heels as you're coming into work in the winter time. There's ice, there's snow, the floors might be slick. Wear better shoes. You want to put them on once you get to your office space? Great. But as you're coming in, as you're going outside on the ice, make sure you're wearing them. And of course, every policy has enforcement and discipline. This isn't the part that I like to focus on. I like to focus on the prevention, the communication, and the teamwork. But, you know, we are, as part of policy, as a part of our role, we are told to report. We are required to report. All right? If you don't know how to do something, it is your responsibility to come ask me as your supervisor, let's say, Christina, how do I do that? And if you don't know how to do it, it's your responsibility to say, I don't feel comfortable doing that until I'm trained. All right? More on general rules. If there are guards in place for something you're using, you have to use them. It may not be convenient. It may not be the fastest way to do it. They're there for a reason. Make sure you're using them, okay? And again, you'll see here, biggest one on here, housekeeping and housekeeping. That's where we see most of our office-related injuries. All right, 3-prong plugs. We all know about this. You're not supposed to have equipment that has a 2-prong plug because it doesn't have a ground. Here's another one, and it seems a little silly to some people. We have stressful jobs. We need to laugh. I agree with that. I love to laugh. However, let's not turn a little bit of let's have some fun into something that becomes horseplay that then people get hurt. Okay? We all love the old shtick where someone pulls a chair out. We all love the old thing where someone walks in an office and we surprise them and scare them. Those kinds of fun things could actually cause an accident or injury. And of course now we have the Fillmore County smoking policy. Depending on which building you're in, it's either no smoking on the county property at all or in a designated area if listed. So make sure you're observing those. And that's it. You've successfully done your training. Again, training never stops. It's every day. It's all the time. Communicate, learn the brief trainings. Please read the things we send you, and we'll continue to move forward as part of the solution and continue the great record of safety that we've had in Fillmore County. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.